government's debt restructuring program. You heard the Finance Minister, Dr. Kisela Tofosin, make some announcements, and I'll keep reiterating it. There is a memorandum of understanding with the official creditors, and 25 partners have signed to it, the MOU, securing $2.86 billion in relief. You still can join.
A very good evening to you and welcome to 1-1 here with me, Bright Nanakwesi. On Metro TV. My guest tonight is the current majority leader in Parliament on the ticket of the NDC. And he is also the Member of Parliament for Bawku constituency, Honorable Mahama Ayariga. After the break, a conversation about the NDC administration, appointment committee, and a lot more will begin. Stay with us here on 1-1. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, and I'm in the office of the Honorable Member of Parliament for Bawku and also the Majority Leader in Ghana's 9th Parliament, Honorable Ayariga. Hello, and thank you so much for opening your doors for us to come into your office.
Thank you.
We usually do this in the studios, but coming here, it's quite interesting and pleasant. We are grateful.
Thank you.
First of all, let me ask you this. Let's look at the 8th Parliament and a quick comparison to the 9th Parliament. It's a bit different, majority with a higher number. How is it like?
Oh, well, you saw the 8th Parliament, and it was the first time that we had this unique situation where both major parties had equal numerical strengths in the chamber. And then the NPP got the upper hand because an independent candidate joined them to do business. And so that gave them a little edge with one number majority, which is extremely slim. Anything could happen. Anytime that any member of parliament on the NPP side traveled or was unavailable, it became a problem. They had to postpone taking decisions and schedule decision making only at times when they were sure they had a full house and could account for their entire 137 members. So definitely I can understand that it places a lot of pressures on them. And we on our side constantly try to exploit whatever opportunity there was to block decisions that we did not agree with. A couple of times we tried to block appointment decisions. Appointment decisions were the ones that really provided a real opportunity to be blocked by the minority, because the voting in those instances will be secret ballots. And so you were always hoping that somebody on the other side will agree with you and vote along your side. A couple of times we failed and we took a hit because it turned out that some people on our side ended up voting for
from the NDC side in Parliament.
Yes. This side ended up voting for the government nominees, and the numbers clearly will betray us that rather people on your side have voted for the government nominees, and we took a hit. A couple of occasions when it came to the appointment of the ministers of state of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So that was it, but we were able to block major or frustrate and delay major government policies. For instance, the e-levy, we held government for close to a year made it impossible for them to, enact the legislation imposing a tax. Towards the end of it, we were able to block the government from having approval for a number of tax exemptions, running into hundreds of millions of dollars. So there were those major successes where we exploited our numerical strength to block, delay, and frustrate policies and initiatives that we strongly disagreed with as a caucus. So that was it basically. But then also, in the early days, we suffered a lot of credibility pressures from our base, the NDC base, when we were not succeeding in blocking appointments. But then, we became famous for being able to, clinch the post of speaker, even though we're the minority. And I think that in doing that, we had created a certain appetite for constant victory. And once that wasn't coming, our base got quite upset with us. They couldn't understand why we were able to fight and win the speakership, and yet, we couldn't block ministerial appointments and etc. But that's the game, because people have all sort of reasons why they vote the way that they vote. People have regional affiliations that make it difficult for them to vote against a nominee. So, for instance, somebody will say, Mahama, Nana Akufo-Addo has nominated his minister who comes from my region. If I join you people to block him or her, he won't give it back to another person from my region. So, and yet he won't give it to an NDC person. So what interest do I have in joining people to vote against a nominee of Akufo-Addo when President Akufo-Addo, when I don't gain in any way from joining you? And so people had all sorts of very interesting arguments that they will make to you that, when you really sit and deeply reflect on it, you find out that that person has a case.
Exactly.
The president has nominated X. You say, no, X. First, the person will say, well, the people have voted for Akufo-Addo to be president. Me, as an NDC person, I want to have an edge over him in the next election. So if he goes to choose somebody that people say is incompetent and can't do the job to assist him as minister,
you are happy.
Yeah, NDC, what business do I have insisting that it must be a competent person? He is doing his evaluation and thinks the person can help him. So why should I bother? People had all sorts of arguments. And so, but the national interest, people feel the person is not competent. Say, the same people felt Akufo-Addo was competent to take those decisions and gave him the mandate. So let him take the decisions. If he thinks that person is competent, then the person is competent. In any case, what business do I have? In any case, the person is coming from my hometown. The person is coming from my region. My chiefs have called and pleaded with me that I should vote.
A lot of factors.
If I vote against the person, I go and I can't account for this decision in my constituency. It might affect me in my elections in future, because my chief will say, your brother or your sister got an opportunity to be a minister on the other side, and you went and sat there and joined your colleagues to block that person. Your turn will come. You see what I'll do to you. And so people had their very, 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 very good reasons why they used to vote the way that they voted. Let me give you an example. There was somebody that we said, the person is incompetent, the person can't even speak English and this and that. And then one of our colleagues came up to me and said, I'm also on this side. I'm not highly educated, but I'm looking forward to one day also becoming a minister. Are you saying that if I don't have a PhD and my party wins, me too, I'll not be qualified to be a minister, since you are blocking people who don't have PhDs from being appointed, ministers? The people had all sorts of reasons. So it became very, very difficult. And especially when it was a secret ballot, it became impossible.
Because you don't even know
who voted which way. So people could do whatever they wanted to do and get away with it. So those were the dynamics that confronted us in that parliament. But like I said, nevertheless, we chalked some successes. We fought against some major policies. We frustrated and delayed some. We actually succeeded in blocking some. For instance, the Supreme Court nominees that came towards the end.
Right.
We blocked them till the end. We blocked them. They couldn't be approved. And so
you were a really loud speaker on that.
Yes. So there were major successes chalked by the minority in that parliament. So that is it. But this parliament comes with its own dynamics, which is basically the country giving the NDC a very, very clear and resounding mandate with such huge numbers, 184 so far and then counting. And then we have the independent candidates, 4 of them agreeing to do business with us. So that gives us, even more than 2/3 of the House because we are 188, on our side. So we have the numbers. Of course, I anticipate that it will come with its own challenges. How do you maintain the attention of 188 members of parliament? How do you make sure that there's discipline? How do you make sure that people imbibe good work ethics? How do you make sure that people don't just endorse whatever the party brings, but that people are very critical of their own party?
How difficult it looks like the number, could be a problem or maybe a problem in terms of controlling how people react to issues in the House and all that. As the head of the majority in Parliament, how are you ensuring that people stay in queue or stay in line?
Well, it's all about training. You have the senior members and then those who have been here 2 terms, 3 terms, okay? So over the years, a lot of them have been trained and understand the rudiments and the rules and the culture here. There are young ones who have come in and they need a lot of orientation and training. In the last 3 weeks, you will notice that there's been quite some unacceptable conduct by some members of parliament. Unfortunately, the day before yesterday, when was that, Friday or Thursday night, we had this unpleasant situation where it wasn't just first timers, but even senior members of the House were involved in that. And earlier in the week, when the issue of Ablekuma North came up in the chamber, where the minority members tried to make the chamber ungovernable and sang and banged tables and made so much noise and were upstanding throughout proceedings and finally we had to take a break and etc. Those kind of things, cannot be accepted. Initially, when leading, you try to educate, you try to engage and etc. And gradually build a culture where there's some discipline and order. That's my, approach. It doesn't mean that, I cannot be hard on people, but that's not my initial first approach when it comes to dealing with human beings. Unfortunately, on Friday, Speaker decided to take some far-reaching measures to deal with the situation in the House. Speaker has a responsibility to ensure that the House is orderly. People have raised all sort of legal issues about...
Minority are not happy about that.
Definitely, I don't expect them to be happy, but I'm not sure the country is happy with some of the things that are being projected into people's halls and living rooms.
Absolutely.
As to what is happening in their parliament. And I know that there were a lot of people who were already calling for some discipline, some order, some commitment to the rules. There are mechanisms for voicing your disagreements, but then you cannot resort to violent behavior. It's unacceptable. And so whatever issues they raise with the legality or illegality of what the speaker has done, I think that the speaker's action has been a very popular decision. I know a lot of people applaud him for taking that decision. We are meeting in the next couple of minutes to review what happened and to deal with some of the issues that he thinks led to the situation that we were experiencing in the House. So going forward, I believe that we are unlikely to have that kind of development. But rest assured that I am one person who will crack the whip if people misbehave to a certain extent. But I think that we've enjoyed a lot of cooperation on both sides. People are not observant, or a lot of people don't understand the culture in this House. If you go back and check the records of Parliament, you'll find out that there has been no president who, within 3 or 4 weeks of coming to office, has gotten 60% of his ministers, appointed and approved. No president. Go and check the records. It's not possible. Very often, by the time the ministers, you start even vetting the ministers, it is February. By the time you finish this whole exercise, it is March. It takes about every 3 months. But it has taken us, this Parliament, just 3 weeks. And we virtually finished. As we speak, we wanted to sit today, but we don't even have ministerial nominees to vet. So we vetted everybody. And tomorrow we're left with, I think, a report on 12 of them. I'm sure by close of day tomorrow, they will all be approved. And I'm sure the president will be waiting. And then immediately we approve, he will. So that will be about 42, I think, 42 ministers within 3-4 weeks.
But are you happy about the work of the appointment committee so far? I mean, let's talk about what has been happening. Honorable Fanyamakin of the minority, the MPP, who seems to have a golden book of questions for each and every nominee. Some of them, he says, they know him from Parliament and of good behavior. So they let them just go, which, I mean, might have seen social media, how people are acting. So you mean to tell me that our Greater Accra Minister has no question to answer, or can't tell us what exactly her plans are for the region and all that? How would you characterize the work of the appointment committee so far? I mean, let's put together the chaos, the questions, the back and forth and all that.
You must understand the structure of things. What is the structure? The structure is that the same people were sold a manifesto by somebody called John Dramani Mahama. That if you vote me into office, I will implement a 24-hour economy. I will improve access to healthcare. I will set up a huge infrastructure fund and do a big push for infrastructure. I will set up a women's development bank that will make money available to women entrepreneurs and move them from kitty situation to real entrepreneurs. That's the manifesto that was sold to the same Ghanaians, and they bought into that manifesto. And then by electing him, you give him the power to appoint people to assist him. Okay?
The promise
the promise he has made to you, based on which you have committed to you voted for him, and then he's now committed to those promises and has to implement them. Now, by virtue of having elected him, he's supposed to appoint people to assist him. You see, the Constitution has a minimum bar for who can be a minister. It is there. It is there. This is the minimum bar. Now, anybody who is a member of Parliament is constitutionally qualified to be a minister. Constitutionally. Once you meet the criteria and qualification of a member of Parliament, you also meet the criteria and qualification of a Minister of State. Whatever is there is an add-on. Are you getting the situation? So once the person stood for elections and then you voted the person, she came and she's a member of parliament, then she's qualified to be a regional minister. And so if the president nominates her, she meets the minimum requirement. What you are normally doing at vetting is to find out whether there's nothing hidden that triggers a disqualification. And nobody has come to say she's done something that triggers a disqualification. Nobody has mounted a challenge. The rest is just you being interested in whether the person's English is good, whether the person fits your own view of who your minister should be. You get the situation. But those are very, very subjective matters. President, in his wisdom, feels that the person is qualified and the person has met the minimum constitutional requirements, jumps over that bar. The rest is just we probing and trying to find out, checking the person's confidence levels, checking the person's appreciation of the promises that the president made. So you want to be regional minister, okay, the president said, okay, the cleanest cities and etc., housing, infrastructure, how will you assist? So but those are the questions.
Forgive me to come in this way, but wouldn't it be good for Ghanaians as we are, I mean, to listen to what exactly her support, like you mentioned, to the president would be or should be, rather than just saying we know it from parliament. I mean, I don't think everybody in the country knows who really she is, and would have loved to hear something from her, rather than just clear because she sits in the house with her and know who she is and what she does.
Well, I mean, you know, when you are considering people for jobs, you also sometimes consider highly the opinion of referees. So consider her colleagues in parliament as referees who have worked with her, who have worked with her for years and believe that she is qualified. And the same thing, for instance, if Haruna Idrisu had appeared before us and we had said, oh, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, please, it's okay, you get up and go. We approve. Would you have been asking the same questions? You understand me? Because people work with people and then they get to know them and then they conclude that they don't want to waste their time asking them questions. See, when you observe the pattern, of vetting, there are political targets. There are political targets. And then there are opportunities you give to people to project themselves. Now, all the nominees who were subjected to extensive vetting and scrutiny by the minority turn out to also be the very strategic players of the NDC whilst in opposition. I mean, you can mention names. I get the situation. Some who you talk so some of what you see is political retaliation and not really just for vetting. The cameras. Not for the camera, political retaliation that you harassed us when we were in government. You took us through a lot. You made us suffer and ultimately you made us lose power. Now you are before us. We will deal with you. It's as simple as that. Because examine the questions. Very few of those questions had to even do with exactly what the person is going to the ministry to do. Are you getting the point? Very few were foreign policy related matters. Very few were really about, what is happening in terms of the communication policy and what policy reforms are you bringing to the table and etc. Very few really related to how better you can manage the finances of this country. A lot of it is a political attack informed by a perception by the other side that you contributed immensely to our losing power. And now you are before us for us to participate in approving you to be a minister. If we had our way, we'll block you. Basically, that's what it is. So that is the culture. I mean, we should move away to a culture of focusing on policy issues and etc. For us, on the majority side, truth be told, we are under pressure to meet timelines that we have given to Ghanaians. If you recall, President Mahama gave a timeline and said, by this time, I will form my government.
Right.
Are you getting the situation? So those of us sitting here have to facilitate and ensure that he meets the timelines. Because he's promised to the Ghanaians that I will finish forming government within this timeline. So we're looking at this, okay, there are 60 of them. So if he says he must, finish in 2 weeks and 3 weeks, how many must we do a day, okay,
right,
to enable him meet the timelines? And so if we decide that we're going to do 5 a day, how many hours per nominee, okay? So in non-controversial areas, we'll ask ourselves, do we ask him questions? Do we rather save the time? Because we know that when it comes to Abloka, they will do 8 hours. So let's manage this person within 1 hour and then let him go so that when they are holding Abloka for 8 hours, we still are able to meet our timelines. So we are doing calculations because we are working towards a timeline. Now, people say, why are you allowing Afenyo? Why are you allowing minority? Why are they bullying you? You have all the numbers. Yes, it's still a question of timelines. Now, if we manage, let me add this. This is so important.
Okay.
If we manage the minority in such a way that on every nominee, they accept to approve by consensus, we don't waste time in the chamber. Because if they say we have to vote on that person, it means that we will spend at least 3 hours voting in the chamber as well. You know how we will win. After we will win. You get the point. We have the numbers. We will win. We will win on any nominee if they decide to vote. We will win.
But like you mentioned, you never know who might cross to the other end.
In their case, because of the fact that we're equal, the slimness of the margin, 1 or 2 could slip. But here where we have 188 and you are struggling with 88 and that kind of thing, even if you manage to convince 10 or 20 of our people, it still will make a difference. You get it. So we will win. No matter what, we'll win. But again, we're looking at timelines. So look, let's tolerate them. Let them do their drama, but then let them just approve by consensus. Let's take the person to the floor and let's not waste time and then have the person approve so that we can help the president to, and then the party, because the president makes promises, not just as John Dramani Mahama, but as NDC and NDC government. So any promise that he makes, we all are collectively bound by the promise. So if he says, I will set that government in 1 month, we must do whatever it takes for him to actually set up government in 1 month. He shouldn't, his numbers here shouldn't conduct themselves in such a way that they will frustrate being able to meet the timelines, especially when it really doesn't matter. And for the ministers, when they start working, you will see how we ourselves as a majority would hold our own ministers to the promises that together we made to the voters, based on which they gave us the numbers that they gave. I want to retain the numbers.
Right.
And retaining the numbers would depend on how the ministers conduct themselves, how hard they work to fulfill the promises made to Ghanaians, and how we are able, as a collective, both ministers and MPs, to satisfy Ghanaians. So we intend to hold our ministers accountable to all the commitments that we have made to Ghanaians. We won't blindly defend ministers. We won't blindly protect ministers. We will hold every minister to the standard of the manifesto promises made. And you must work towards achieving those manifesto promises. We won't wait for the minority, because minorities didn't make those promises. We made those promises. And we are sitting here as the parliamentarians of the people. And even though we voted the president to come into office, even though we also approved you, the ministers, but the constitution says that we should have oversight. And we will have oversight. We will hold every minister accountable.
Right. Now, let me ask you this question. You mentioned the fact that, the NDC administration, together with the president, are looking forward to make sure that, time allocated to the nomination and vetting and passing out all over is actually met. Is it also intentional or decision made by the NDC and the majority in caucus to make sure that, the chairman, Honorable Ahiafo, don't really, interfere so much with some of the questions and behaviors of some of the members on the Parliament Committee just to save their time? Because it looks like people are not really happy. Some members of the NDC are actually criticizing, actions that have been exhibited by him on the committee.
That's why I said we need greater understanding of what is happening. Like I said, go and check the history, go and check the records of Parliament. There has never been such speed in the approval of ministerial nominees as we are seeing today. Never. Go and check the records. And so the chairman is doing very well. He is ensuring that the minority can engage in their drama as much as they want, but ultimately that we have the approvals that we need. And we help the president to keep to his timelines and for our party to look good, ultimately. As for the number of questions, I say that it has been the practice, to tell you the truth, that the leadership are not restricted in how much time they spend on asking nominees questions. That has been the practice. You can go and check when NDC was in the minority and, you know, whether there were specific rules that restricted the minority leader in terms of the amount of time that he will spend on asking questions. And I always tell people that, you know, a particular minority leader and his style may be unacceptable to you, but the rule should remain sacrosanct, because you don't know when you will also be a minority leader.
Right.
So if you change the rules today because you don't like a particular minority leader, how about if you become a minority leader tomorrow? So
against
yes, and then also I think that I have advised Afeni, I said, look, I think that your style may not actually be helping you yourself. Yes, because you see, as a leader, you strive to be liked by all sides. You see,
you don't think it's liked by both sides? Like
you said, NDC people are putting pressure, they are upset, and etc. I think somebody like Haruna Idrisu, who was our minority leader, was equally liked by a lot of MPP people. Okay? I think Forson, who was our leader, was equally admired and liked by, you know, members of the MPP. Because people can tell when you are doing a good job from when you are just trying to frustrate a nominee without really having anything of substance against the nominee. When you are seen just pushing the nominee, hoping that the nominee will slip, okay, from when you actually have some evidence of wrongdoing by the nominee, and you are simply probing in such a way that you pin the nominee to the evidence that you have. And coming from a lawyer, you know, it should be possible for you to do it in such a way that across board, everybody is happy with what you are doing. Because, like you said, people want us to really probe the nominees, check their level, their intellect, check their competencies, check their understanding of the issues that they are going to be dealing with. And so if you're questioning and you're probing, no matter how long it takes, is achieving these ends, the public will be happy. But I hardly see that in what the minority side is doing. And so I don't think that many people are that happy with the work that they have done. And that is what is fueling the pressure on the chairman. Why even tolerating that kind of thing?
Exactly. Why allowing him speak too much? Why you allowing
him so much space? But the rules say have as much space as you need as a leader. Are you getting the point? But then, as a leader, you have to understand that if you abuse the space, it affects your credibility as a leader as well. If you make good use of the space, it elevates your image as a leader as well. So it's a question of how you use the space. But I am not ready to cut down that rule simply because it is Afeni today. Because it can be Mahama Ayariga tomorrow. And I want to have that space. And I believe that I will make very good use of that space. I won't abuse it. And it will inure to my benefit as a politician and to my caucus, because at this stage, from opposition, You are trying very hard to now cultivate the Ghanaian public to come to your side to give an edge in the next election. So if you're not doing that well, really, you're not making the best use of the time. That's how I see it. But after the time, I honestly will oppose any effort to restrict it. In any case, I'm almost done with the approval of my ministerial nominees. So if I didn't, impose the restrictions in the beginning, why would I be interested in imposing the restrictions at the end when we're almost done with the nominations?
Right. Now, there was a question, probably a submission, that was made by Afonyo Markin. When the vetting of Honorable, what's the name? The defense minister nominee or nominated, appointed, I should say, Omwan, when he said, during our time, we gave you room and some special, whatever. And so when you also passed, I don't expect you to give me anything lesser than that. People are suggesting that this submission could be the fact that there has already been claims that members of parliament are given slots in services like the military, police, and all that. And so that could be what he's talking about. Is that the case?
I like to be very, very honest, no matter what the situation is. There were such practices. Some of us opposed those things. I remember even just before if you recall, if you come to the Hansard and then you check the records, I, working with some other MPs, including Ablakwa, Sohini, we had even filed a motion for the Ministers of Interior, the Minister of Defense, and the National Security Minister to be probed by this House, to be investigated by this House, because of this culture of protocols in recruitment into the security agencies. I wanted that investigation to take place because, in my opinion, that was a practice that was damaging to the reputation and image of the security agencies. And that is a practice that is politicizing the security agencies. And that is a practice that is denting our electoral process. When we had these vigilantism issues, and then you had young people, supporting political parties and forming themselves into armies, and they were violent, and we had to come to this House to pass a legislation on anti-vigilantism. What was fueling it was recruitments into the services. All those young people did those things and expected as a reward that when their party won, they will be given preferential treatment when it comes to recruitment into the military, into the police, into the fire service, and the security agencies. And so when they get into the security agencies, they essentially are not a professional security agent. They are partisan. They are partisan security agents because they are party boys. A few days ago, the MPs were waxing lyrical about how the NDC has lost control and there are young people, parading the ministries and agencies and taking possession of buildings and not allowing the security agencies to do their work of taking possession and holding it during the transition period. I said, do you know why? Yeah, because those young people don't trust the police, they don't trust the soldiers, they don't trust the national security because they know who you recruited into those agencies. They know that you didn't recruit professionals into those agencies. They know that you recruited your party boys against our protests here in this House. The last recruitment that took place, it became a big national issue, the Interior Minister. I remember opposing him, where he said, no. There were some applications 2 years ago. And then he sent it to the Council of State. The Council of State said he should keep it. Anytime that he wants to do recruitment, he should go into those records. And we gave him a number of examples of people that we had seen on his list that had just finished SS that year. So it isn't possible that they were part of 2 years ago application because they have just finished SS this year. So if you said, oh, you are going back into the archives and all those who applied 2 years ago, we still have their database. We are just drawing from their database. Show me how these SS graduates who just finished last year got into that list, because they were not there 2 years ago to apply. So that whole culture dented the image of our security agencies. And that is why today you find some sections of youth that are obviously NDC not wanting to yield to the professional security agency. So we have a lot of work to do to reposition the image of our security agencies so that they can be professional.
But did you ever get any slots like that? Were you presented with any of the slots?
I rejected it. If you ask my peers in my constituency, it was used to campaign against me, all branches, all zones, that I don't help young people to get into security. Go and ask social media platform, they lambasted me. But I stuck to my convictions and said, you apply, you are taken on the basis of merit, and we need to establish a society that is founded on meritocracy. Otherwise, our elections will become like a life and death situation, because one half of the country feels that they will die if the other half takes over. Are you getting the situation? They will not see it as simply that the policy preferences of the other side will gain an opportunity to be implemented. As you see in Europe and other democracies, elections don't become bloody because people know that it's not a life and death situation. It's just about policy preferences gaining, preference, not that I will totally starve if whatever social amenities are available to every citizen will be available to me irrespective of my political affiliations. Whatever normal job opportunities exist, I will get it irrespective. If I'm a businessman, I can be confident that every, contract or supply will go through the normal competitive process. And if I'm indeed the best qualified, I will get the job. So businessmen don't have to be forced to transform themselves into, party activists of any political group in order that they can even survive as businessmen.
Right.
If we don't work towards that kind of society, we'll have a problem. And I see the votes that John Mahama got in this election and the support that NDC got as a rejection of that culture that the MPP tried to impose in this country, where they politicized almost every institution of state, where there was a clear state capture, where they tried to, appropriate every asset of the state and then move it to private ownership. These are the things that I believe Ghanaians voted against. You get the situation. And I think that we in the NDC will not repeat that mistake.
Now, upon hearing the Honorable Minister and the leader of the minority in Parliament make such pronouncement in such a public space, every single TV station is having it. It's everywhere. How did you make it feel as a member of Parliament and the leader of the majority as well?
Because I have evidence that I fought it. I have evidence that I fought it. So I'm not worried because I have conscientiously, consistently, over the years, fought it.
But for him saying it in public, it looked normalized.
If you go to my constituency, they will tell you that on radio stations, at campaign rallies, it was a point that was used against me openly and publicly. But then I stuck to my beliefs and my convictions, you see. And I'm happy that today it is coming up and Ghanaians are expressing their revulsion, because we all have to work together to generate the kind of pressures that will get people to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy that it has stuck in people's minds and they are questioning it. By questioning it, I hope that it will serve as a constant reminder to the NDC government that try and strive to create a meritocratic society. Every young person in this country must have fair and equal opportunities to access the opportunities that the state has for them. It shouldn't be based on party affiliations. So all the things that we hope to achieve, creating a 24-hour economy, it should be party colorblind. All the recruitment opportunities we are creating for the young people of this country, it should be party colorblind. The Women Development Bank, there should be no NDC women, there should be no MPP women. Every woman in this country must have a fair opportunity. I believe that if we do that, the NPP will stay in opposition for close to a century.
Close to a century?
Oh, close to a century. Because Ghanaians will be so happy and you can continue. I mean, go to Rwanda. The president is there. Everybody's happy with the president.
Is that the motive of the NDC now?
No. What I'm saying is that the party is in power for a very long time because the general populace is satisfied. Are you getting the situation? So wherever you go, where the population is satisfied, they will keep the party that is satisfying them in power. This whole thinking that, oh, Ghanaians only give, a party a mandate for 8 years is not true. It is also because by the 8th year, our governments tend to have made so many mistakes that the people get dissatisfied and want to use the opportunity to change them, It's not because Ghanaians have decided that every 8 years they want to change a government. No, the hassle of changing a government, the hassle of a transition, the cost of a transition is not lost to the minds of Ghanaians, okay? But then if you force them, they will do a transition. If you don't meet their expectation, they will change you. So I don't believe that Ghanaians will change a government every 8 years. No. I believe that every 8 years, I force them an opportunity to remove a bad one and bring somebody that they hope will be better.
Right.
You get a situation. But if you are good, they will keep you. If the party continues to perform well, if Ghanaians conclude that, oh, this is a party that is even-handed, treats everybody fairly, you will still have the hardcore MPP members who are in it for the power. They will keep fighting. But the majority of the people will say, well, even when you got it, I didn't get anything anyway. All I got was corruption. All I got was inefficiency. All that I got was huge prices for basic commodities and etc. The system wasn't running well. So why would I just blindly follow you?
Is that why we are seeing what you want to tag as neutrals being appointed in Sunday offices, like Professor Jampo, Dr. Randiabi, and some other names being appointed? Is it part of the all-inclusive government agenda?
I think that you must unite the country. You cannot really be successful with one half of the population dragging you back and the other half struggling to pull ahead. I get the situation. You must reach out. You must unite the country if you are really going to make progress. The same way that you cannot really make so much headway if you don't have both genders all having their labor accounted for in the development of the country. You must bring the labor of the women to add to the labor of the men to really propel yourself forward. So I am all for consensus building. I am all for inclusion because, yes, you may have your ideas which you have sold to the Ghanaian populace and they have bought into it, but it doesn't mean that you are the sole custodian of good ideas. Some people among your opponents also have some good ideas that they could bring to the table that could perfect your ideas.
Right.
So let's be inclusive and let's be tolerant. And tolerance is a trait that the leader up there has to signal to the rest of the population. His party people will be angry. So no, we fought for this power. Why are you bringing some of them to come and join us and benefit from the power? But if he stands his grounds, then it will justify other people at the grassroots level also reaching out and then extending those facilities to those who are not hardcore members of their party. And then, you will work towards a culture of inclusiveness. I recall the first time John Dramani Mahama was a vice president working with Atamils, if you recall, as president. They had this father for all, policy that look, we're all together, we're all one country, and I'm a father for all, whether you're NDC or you're MPP. Of course, we got lambasted for it and etc. But today, everybody remembers President Ivan Satamils fondly as the one person who stood above party politics, who united the country, who was disciplined, who fought corruption, and who did all that. But at that time, they were against him for being very accommodating. You get the situation? But subsequently, they are praising him for being very, very accommodating. So today, you will face the opposition. But going forward, people will see the leadership in what you are doing.
I want us to go into constituency, but before that, a number of people are not happy with the way an altercation between Afenyomakin and the clerk during the appointment committee. Give me a quick take on that, and let's talk about your constituency and your plans for the area.
I think it's unfortunate that a civil servant will be taken on publicly that manner. There are mechanisms for taking on civil servant if you are not satisfied with what they have done.
Right.
But to put them on political platforms and then take them to the cleaners the way that Afenyo did is regrettable. I believe the speaker will look into that matter.
Right. Now let's quickly talk about Bawku. I mean, we're still given the mandate to come to Parliament to lead them, and now you are the majority leader of the House. What exactly are the plans happening in Bawku, insecurities and all that? What are the plans?
Yeah, there's already a lot of work going on into the problem of security, the chieftaincy issues, and etc. If you recall, the first time the president was leaving Accra to any part of Ghana after being sworn in as a president was to Bawku and then to Nalerugu. So it gives an indication of how high the president holds the situation there as a priority for his government. He's been meeting day and night. For yesterday, I had about 3 hours of discussions with him. His vision of how he wants us to approach the problem. He's going to see Bawku Naba, he's going to see the Nairi, he's going to see Otumfuo. He's had discussions with his security chiefs. And I, as a member of parliament of the area, we engage in some brainstorming as to how to approach the effort towards bringing lasting peace. I want to assure you that work has started. There's a lot that is going on that is not the kind of thing that you put out there in public. When you are mediating, it's not everything that you're going to see. Mediation is not done on television or on radio. Mediation, there's a lot of it that is background work. There's a lot of it that is public work. There's a lot of it that is covert operations. There's a lot of it that is overt operations. And there are those who say, come and use force, come and use force. Force doesn't give you a lasting solution. Force may give you a temporary satisfaction, but it doesn't give you a lasting solution. A problem that the colonial government attempted to solve and couldn't solve. A problem that the military junta in 1966 that overthrew Nkrumah tried to solve and couldn't solve. A problem that President Jerry John Rawlings in 1985 took steps to solve, and 40 years down the line, it reared its ugly head again. It's not a problem that you use force to solve. You get the point? It's a problem that you use tact, you use engagement, you build consensus, you try to satisfy all the parties in such a way that when you think you have solved it, tomorrow morning it doesn't rear its ugly head. So my plea to all sides is that President Mahama is not yet even 1 month old as a president. He is not yet even 1 month old as a president. Bawku's problem cannot be solved in 1 month. Or you cannot have a lasting solution in 1 month. So my plea to my constituents is that give His Excellency and myself a little more time. We are working at it, and we definitely will solve the problem. And it is going to be a lasting solution so that the day that NDC leaves office, the problem doesn't rear its ugly head again. Because there's a tendency where each time that it is NDC, problem gets solved. Then when it's MPP, the problem, resurfaces again. And everybody in Bawku can testify to that. Not that I'm politicizing the problem, but then the problem has taken on a political coloration in terms of the periods that it manifests itself. And so it is a function of solving it in such a way that there is still some dissatisfaction. And that, even no matter how small it is, that will grow and then, resurface in future. But we want this time, when we say we have solved it, it is solved.
So we're still here, one-on-one with Honorable Mahama, Ayariga, talking everything politics and economy. We are back from the break with more. Stay with us.
Thank you.
And so I've been here
Thank you.
with the Member of Parliament for Bawku,
Yes, sir.
Honorable Mahama Ayariga, and also who doubles as the current majority leader in Parliament on the ticket of the NDC, former Information Minister. He's a lot of formers. But thank you so much. Let's take to the current as the majority leader in Parliament. I am Bright, Nanakwesi, and this is 101. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.